Good afternoon, Iowa school counselors. My name is Eric Hunterdas. I am a school counselor in Iowa City, Iowa. And today I would like to share a little bit about gathering and utilizing essential social emotional data. If you would like to get in contact with me at some point, feel free to use my school email, which is listed down at the bottom, and I will show it one more time at the very end as well. We have three objectives today. The first is I want to help build consensus around a social emotional data collection tool. Identify key stakeholders who will serve as check-in partners. And then I want to introduce you to a system that's called CloseGap and show you how you could integrate that within your school's multi-tiered system of support. So to lay a little bit of groundwork and also to lay some foundation about why this is beneficial, I wanted to post this NAMI graphic in my presentation because I think it brings to light a lot of the things that we know, a lot of the things that we see in our work, and some statistics that many of you have probably already seen. So many of you know that 1 in 5 children between the ages of 13 and 18 have or will have a serious mental illness. 11% of youth have a mood disorder, 8% have an anxiety disorder, and we know that suicide is the third leading cause of death in youth between the ages of 10 and 24. One of the most startling statistics for me is that the average delay between the onset of symptoms for a mental health diagnosis and intervention is between 8 and 10 years, which is far, far too long for our kids to wait for appropriate care. As school counselors, we have a duty to help to identify students who are struggling with mental health needs and help them access the supports that they need, both in school and outside of school. And we need tools to do that. And my hope is by the end of this presentation that I will give you a tool and a system that might help support that need. I like this MTSS graphic because it's kind of fun, but it also encompasses a lot of my own personal beliefs about MTSS, particularly when I think about MTSS focused around the social emotional needs of our kids. We have done a great job as schools to build an MTSS structure around, particularly around students who externalize a lot of their concerns. Think about students who may become disruptive during class, who may become aggressive out at recess. We can easily identify those students who need supports because their behaviors are externalized. What I have struggled with, and what I hear many counselors and other people in the mental health field struggle with, is how do we identify those students who essentially don't identify themselves? Students who come to school, they seem happy, they seem fine, and then at some point, we find out that they've been struggling for a long, long time internally. I feel like we can build an MTSS structure around those students as well. And the foundation of that starts with a positive school climate and culture. It starts with some really strong partnerships with our families and with community. It starts with mental health promotion and awareness. Those are some really solid building blocks that we have to start with. At the tier 1 level, two of the things that I find most important are the referral process and the universal screening process. How are we working through students and trying to identify students who need support at the higher tier 2 and tier 3 level? And what does that referral process look like? Also at the tier 1 level, we know it's important that all students receive social emotional learning and that we continue to promote that mental health and wellness promotion. At the tier 2 level, we know that screening is super important so that we can find exactly what students need. What supports do they need? We don't lump them all into one particular category. We want to make sure that we deliver the appropriate instruction for their needs. And then progress monitoring can sometimes be a difficult process. And so I hope to provide you with a tool that can help you do that as well. So the things that I have that are boxed in red, I believe that I'm going to provide some solutions for you in those areas. Data. We have a lot of data points that are at our fingertips. You can see them all on here. One of the biggest that we oftentimes are dealt is office referrals, because those are the students that we oftentimes need to support quite a bit, because they can sometimes interrupt the learning environment, and we want to help them be able to succeed in the classroom and in school and just in life in general. And so office referrals are a good data set, as are teacher referrals and nurse visits if you track those, parent referrals. SEL assessments are starting to become more commonplace in schools. So doing screenings like the Devereaux student screening scale, the student risk screening scale, panorama surveys, those are all great surveys to do, but they're not done on a very consistent basis. They're done 3-ish times a year, and they provide absolutely great information. But there is just a particular hole, I believe, that we have in our system, and it's identifying kids on an ongoing basis who are struggling silently. We need to find a way to reach out to those kids. And so, in summation of part 1 of my presentation, I believe that we need more consistent, actionable, child driven data. And by child driven, I mean that the child is giving you information, not necessarily that we're writing an office referral and making our best guess. Or that the teacher is filling out some type of a behavior rating scale. Those are all valuable and good information. But I believe that we need more information directly from our kids about their lives and how they are feeling. And so I propose a free tool called CloseGap. And I want to explain a little bit about what CloseGap is. This is a tool that we found at the beginning of last year, and we started to use it last year with our 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And we started really, really small and built out. And it's become something that is kind of a standard within our school at this point. So CloseGap is a free daily emotional check-in where students are able to identify their feelings, as you can see in this slide right here. They're able to tie their feelings to sensations in their body. So for example, when a student clicks frustrated, it might ask them how they feel frustrated. Do they feel stiff or tense? Is their face hot? Are they a little shaky? And so it ties feelings within our body to our actual feelings, which is great for self-awareness. They're able to pick their energy level. And so they're able to let us know if they're feeling low in energy, if they're ready to go. They can indicate specific needs. So if they've had food for the morning, if they slept well, if they're having some difficulties at home, they can let an adult privately know that they need to connect rather than having to go and ask an adult for a piece of paper to see the counselor. And they can learn simple, quick coping strategies. They're very, very short, and you'll get to see them here shortly. Why use CloseGap? So what is our motivation? What was our motivation behind starting this program? Particularly this year and the end of last year as well, it's very difficult for us to build a relationship with kids and to build trust over an internet connection and just seeing kids through a computer screen. We are used to doing our jobs in person and having that human connection. And while Zoom is a great substitute, it's not the real thing. And so we need a way to create a bridge to our kids' lives and help them let us know how things are going. We believe that this can help increase self-awareness because students are consistently asked about how they're feeling. So they're working on emotion identification. We're able to identify and remedy problems before they manifest through behavior. And what I mean by that is if a student checks in as frustrated and they said that they had some home trouble, we're able to get ahead of that as they check in the morning, and we can have someone go and check in and say, hey, what's going on, would you like to talk about this? And then they have an outlet rather than sitting and letting it fester and build until they may not be able to handle it anymore. Data collection is another huge asset. As you can see on the screen, they provide a really simple graph of energy level over time, but they also provide you with all kids' previous check-ins. So on the educator side, you're able to see all students' check-ins since they start closed gap. And the last reason why I use it, it's completely free, 100%. We couldn't believe it, but it's 100% free, which is amazing. So when you use CloseGap, there are some punch list items that you'll want to take care of. First, you're going to want to create an educator account. I did this when I started because I wanted to tinker around with it. You're able to create a fake account of kids and just kind of see what different check-ins might look like so that you're able to explain it to kids as you introduce it to them. I highly recommend sifting through the educator toolkit on the CloseGap website. They include permission forms to caregivers. They can show you how to upload student accounts, and they have a CSV file where you're able to upload a bunch of students at a time rather than one by one. And they also have a great tutorial for kids about the do's and don'ts of CloseGap, which really sets kids up for success using CloseGap. Once you've kind of gone through sending permission forms, getting students uploaded, teaching students about it, I highly encourage you to think about who you could share students with. We shared our students with their teachers, so each teacher has their roster of kids and their CloseGap check-ins. And the reason we did this is because we believe that our teachers are the first line of defense for our kids. They're the ones that see the kids all day, every day, and it's important for them to be in the loop, and it gives them an idea of the emotional landscape of their classroom. I highly encourage developing a systematic check-in routine for students and adults. What this looks like is either providing a time in the morning for all teachers to use CloseGap, or making sure that all teachers know that it's extremely important to use it, but giving them the freedom to pick the time that they would like their kids to check in on CloseGap. And then finally, develop regular data reviews. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that's something that we as a school are still trying to work through. And so I will show you our rough draft of what we have come up with towards the end of this presentation. Some key stakeholders that you're going to want to think about. Obviously, students are the top stakeholder because we want them to be engaged with this and understand what it is and why it's important. Parents, we want them on board. We want them to understand what the platform is. Some schools have chosen to have parents sign up on CloseGap as a parent account. Parents are able to have their kids shared with them if you would like. We have not broached that yet because we are simply focused on setting up our own system. But parents are always welcome to check out their child's CloseGap I always check with the child to make sure that that is something that's okay with them. Classroom teachers, the school counselor obviously would be a great person to have on there. And then some other people that you may want to include on either some or maybe a few individuals, the school nurse, the school psychologist, special educators in your school, and then maybe if you have a school social worker or a student family advocate. So I'd like to do a quick review of CloseGap with you right now. And I'll show you both the student login as well as the educator login and what that looks like. So I'll log in as my son Ansel. He's only one. He doesn't actually log in. I just use a fake account for him. As you log in, you'll see that it says, "It's great to see you, Ansel. Let's start." And there's this fun little cadet character that the kids enjoy. I'm so excited to explore emotions with you. How are you feeling now? Which is a great question to ask rather than how are you feeling today? Because we know that kids' feelings and our feelings change very, very quickly and frequently. So we're going to say that Ansel is feeling kind of frustrated today. And it always asks them to confirm. How does that feel in your body? We'll say Ansel's feeling kind of shaky, he's breathing hard, and he's stiff or tense. We all feel frustrated sometimes, and that's okay, which is a great normalizing message for our kids. Let's see how much fuel you have in your spaceship. I'll tell you exactly what each of these does, and then we will click on the lower empty button at the end. When kids click full and ready, it takes them to a screen where it says, "Thanks for checking in. It's great that you're full and ready. You can go ahead and return CloseGap to an adult, or you can check your profile and see your data." And that's the end of their CloseGap check-in if they click full and ready. When kids click just okay, it takes them to a screen that says, "It's okay to not feel completely ready for the day. Let's give you an activity that maybe might bring your energy level up or keep you a little bit calmer." And it brings them to 6 quick activities that will show up after we do the low or empty here, and I will show you those. So low or empty prompts kids to do some extra questions. We'll click that Ansel's just not ready. He does not have much energy for the day. So help me understand by answering a few questions. Have you had breakfast or lunch today? We'll say, yeah, he did. Did he sleep well? Nope. Hurt or sick? He's not hurt or sick today. Everything okay at home? We'll say something happened. Not feeling great about home. Feeling bullied? Nope. Do you want to talk to an adult? We'll say he does. Help's on the way. No one feels their best all the time. All that matters is that you try. Here are those 6 activities that I was talking to you about earlier, and they have a great range. They have deep breathing. They have shake it out, where you're shaking some different body parts. Power pose. Let it go is a great tension reliever, where kids are doing some progressive muscle relaxation. Let's make a list. And then journaling, where kids can just journal for 5 minutes. So we'll click let it go. And you can see the kids are walked through how to do progressive muscle relaxation. And then students click done. That's all for now. I'll be here if you need me. Students, as they get older, are really going to benefit from being able to go to their own profile and check out their CloseGap check-ins over time. So these are the check-ins for Ansel over time. And you can see down below, it shows the specifics of how he checked in. And if you want to, you can just see this week. You can see Ansel's kind of had a little bit of a harder week this week. Kind of sad, a little frustrated. And if he wants to, he could do another check-in, or he can log out. So now let's see the educator side. So when educators log in, here's what they will see. At the very top, you're going to see any student who says that they need help. And you can see Ansel checked in and he said he needed help. It provides the time that he checked in. It shares his grade level and his teacher. It shares a little bit about how he checked in on some of those questions. So I know that he didn't sleep well last night. I know that he's having some trouble at home and that he wants to talk. The great thing about this close gap tool is that as it's shared between multiple stakeholders, all of those individuals are able to see this check-in. So let's say Ansel's teacher, his school counselor, the student family advocate, and maybe one other person are all shared between Ansel. And Ansel's teacher catches that he wants to talk to somebody, and his teacher goes to see what's going on, and she's checked in with him and clicks follow up. So anybody else who's connected to Ansel will see that she checked in with Ansel. And so I know that I don't need to go check in with Ansel necessarily, but maybe I might want to check in with that teacher to see if Ansel needed to follow up with anyone else. As you scroll down, you're able to see in descending order of need level how students have checked in. And don't worry, these are all fake accounts. You can click into any student's account and you're able to see their history just like they're able to see their history. And so if you're looking at students over a period of time and you want to monitor their progress, you're able to see that. As students check in each day, this will populate down here and you'll see all of the students as they check in. And maybe you want to see specifically which students have checked in and they said that they're having some home trouble because you really want to make sure you check in with those kids for some reason. All you had to do is go to search students and then you can filter by needs and self-reports and it pulls up just those students that you want to select. If you serve multiple buildings, you're able to check in with multiple buildings. If you want to just see a specific teacher's students, you can do that. There's a lot of different ways that you're able to filter students so that it fits your needs. As I shared earlier, we have some different procedures when kids check in on close gap. So I will share both our daily close gap response procedure as well as something that we're still tinkering with, which is our monthly review of close gap check-ins of all students. When a student checks in on close gap, here's how we have handled it, and take it or leave it, I guess. You can build your own if you'd like. So when a student checks in with no warning signals, meaning they don't say they need to talk to an adult, they don't indicate any basic needs that are missing, like food or sleep or any home trouble, and their energy level is pretty good, like a green or a yellow, then there's really no action needed. You can just continue monitoring them. But if they do indicate one of those warning signals, our first line of defense, as we talked about, is the teacher. We want our teachers to feel empowered to use this data to check in with their kids. As that teacher checks in, we know that a lot of our kids may have home trouble and it might be something they just want to share with the teacher, but they don't really need anything else. They just want someone to know what's going on. And that oftentimes is just enough. And so when students feel like the teacher has addressed their concerns, we just continue monitoring that student. But if a student says that the need is greater, or if the teacher feels like they're not able to handle the concern, they can refer to the school counselor. And again, a couple things could happen. The school counselor could talk through the issue with the student. And if the student feels like the concern's been addressed and nothing is needed further and the counselor agrees, we can continue to monitor them. But let's say that the student is saying, some things that are concerning, or we look at their close gap history and there's some historical um, tendencies with how they're checking in and maybe things that are going on kind of on a repeated basis, that's where we might consider them for tier two. And again, we don't use this solely as a tier two, pathway. We would make sure that we're checking with their classroom teacher, with their parent. We would be looking at some other data points to make sure that they would meet the needs for a tier two intervention. And then we would implement that intervention for 6 to 8 weeks, check on improvement both within that intervention as well as through close gap, and just continue monitoring their progress. So that's kind of our daily close gap response procedure. The monthly close gap response procedure is something that is still a work in progress for us. And I have a mistake on here that I can already see. So we are very fortunate at my school to have the chance to sit down with our teachers monthly and talk about their students' social, emotional, behavioral health needs. And so we have been trying to incorporate close gap into that. And we're trying to set some thresholds where we would be needing to take a look at a student a little bit harder if they meet certain thresholds. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they would directly flow into a tier two intervention, but that we would be looking at them to see if they might meet the needs of a tier two intervention. So for example, if students are checking in for an entire month, as we look at that data, if they're checking in the red and the blue, or the blue, more than 50% of the time, or they're asking for adult support more than 4 times within a month, and again, these are rough numbers, we would want to consider them for tier two just based on that history. We want to look for students that are discrepant from other students, and most of our students are checking in most of the time in that green area. They're not indicating significant needs, maybe every now and again, but most are not asking for adult support more than 4 times. And so we would find that discrepant, and we would want to provide some type of support to that student. And as we do that, we would want to continue to monitor and check progress both on close gap as well as whatever tier two intervention we're using. And over 6 to 8 weeks, we want to see if improvement is made. So that is our monthly work in progress close gap response procedure. Now, I've talked quite a bit about my perspective of close gap, but what I find most powerful are the people who either implement it or are on the receiving end, so students, as well as some people who are maybe more on the administrative level. I like to hear from them, and I would like you to hear from them as well. So I will let you listen to them and hear what they have to say about close gap.
I first learned about close gap last year when we introduced it to my 4th grade class. Close gap is very easy to use and provides great insight into how my students are feeling on any given day. It's engaging and quick, and best of all, gives students immediate suggestions for short activities they can do right after they check in. Even students who struggled to be engaged at times would eagerly choose an exercise to help them focus or relieve their stress. They would strike a yoga pose and hold it for 30 seconds, or close their eyes and breathe in deeply. I had students asking me for little notebooks so they could make a list of things that made them happy, or just jot down how they were feeling. Best of all, close gap helped me reach the quietest of my students who always followed directions and always turned their work in on time. These are the students who would surprise me the most with the concerns they shared through close gap. On the outside, they seemed like everything was fine. They didn't complain or act out or indicate in any way that things weren't always so rosy in their lives. Because of close gap, I had a much better understanding of what my students were experiencing beyond academics. It also helped reinforce our sense of community. Students were more likely to share how they were feeling and could use a whole new set of words to describe those feelings. I saw more empathetic students who willingly shared the strategies they tried that helped them, and their friends would follow their suggestions. I truly believe now more than ever that close gap can make a very real difference in the lives of my students.
Hi, my name is Hazel and I'm in 5th grade. My counselor is Mr. H, and we started using Close Gap in fourth grade. Some things I like about it are so when you get into Close Gap, you there are different emotions, and you can pick your emotion. And if it's sad or tired, you're going to describe sort of how you're feeling, and then it'll say, "Are you ready for something?" It'll say like, "Are you ready for the day?" And if you say like you're okay or lower, then it'll say then it'll bring you to this thing that gives you strategies of how to make your day better. And then it'll ask you, do you need to talk to an adult, or are you fine, or is it something happening at home or at school? And so if it's one of those things, then you can talk to somebody about it. Another thing I like about Close Gap is that when you choose your feeling, you got to describe sort of like how you're feeling. Like, so I'm happy, and it would say, like, are you warm? Are you full or light? And those are the reasons I like Close Gap.
Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Hirschberger, and I am a third and fourth grade teacher in the Iowa City Community School District. This is my second year using Close Gap, and I just wanted to share some things that I really enjoy about the program. The first one is that it allows my students time to just sit down and think about how they're really feeling at the beginning of our day. It then gives them some tools to use to maybe calm their nerves or refocus their mind before we get started on our day. And then it also allows me to go back in and see who might need another touch point during the day. Maybe I need to check in with them again and see how they're doing. So I really enjoy the program, and I hope you give it a try and see how you like it too.
My name is Lindsay Schleckebier, and I am curriculum coordinator for Iowa City Schools, the K-12 counseling program. And I'm really excited to tell you about our experience with Close Gap so far. When Eric joined the school district last year, he talked to me about Close Gap as a possible platform to use for students. And when he showed it to me, I was so excited to see what Close Gap could offer, and how easy it seemed, and just a really nice, simple way to check in with students. And so we said, gave Eric the green light to pilot it at his couple of schools, and then worked with him throughout the time that he was piloting it. And it just grew so quickly because it is such an easy platform to use, and because the creators are so attentive and helpful, and they listen to suggestions. They're available for questions to walk through how to use the platform. They've really scaled up their onboarding training materials, and it is probably the quickest implementation of a tool that I've ever experienced in this district. So it started with Eric using it at a couple of schools, and then with him talking to some of the other elementary counselors, a lot of other elementary schools started using it, and just really positive feedback from parents, from students, from teachers, from administrators, from counselors, across the board. All stakeholder groups really, really loved it and found use and value in it. It's really nice to get that real-time data. In addition, it'd be nice to use it in addition to other screeners, but to have those daily check-ins, a lot of our classrooms use it daily, and to have those daily check-ins is really great to have that real-time data. Also, it can be used periodically, right? If it doesn't, if people don't want to do it every day, but it is super quick, so it can be used every day. But it's great to be used also as a progress monitoring tool. So if kids are in tier 2, tier 3 interventions, they can use that as a check-in piece to see how they're doing. And again, to have that real-time data is just it's really valuable. So we've really loved it for all of those reasons. Probably my favorite piece of Close Gap is the fact that it offers students strategies right then and there that they can use at their seat really quickly. And so it is skill building. It's not just, oh, I need somebody to talk to, which is a great piece of it that they can indicate that. But the fact that they can also use strategies in the moment, and it's teaching them those skills, those useful calming down, mindfulness strategies. They get to choose which ones to use. It's very simple, quick, and hopefully it builds their capacity to continue using those strategies anytime that they need them throughout a school day or outside of school. So we've been very, very pleased with Close Gap, and I'm looking forward to scaling out the use of it in the district. And yeah, because we can use it both in a virtual environment and on site. And I'm really excited about the possibilities, and have just been really thankful to have it, and that Eric shared it with us. So I hope that you will choose to use it and find value in it as well. Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Didn't mean to start that again. My apologies. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope that you found something useful out of it. I hope it got your brain thinking. And I'm always, always, always happy to talk with other school counselors who are interested in utilizing this platform and have questions about how we rolled it out, some of the barriers that we ran into, and any of the helpful tips that we have come across. I can't speak highly enough of the folks at Close Gap. They are extremely, extremely attentive to what schools need and want to provide a platform that is helpful to everybody in education. They want kids to have access to emotional wellness supports, bottom line. And so I appreciate you coming to my session. I hope you gained something out of it, and go school counselors, you rock.